print them out? Where are they? Waiting to be discovered.
Good morning, Spiritual Life Center. Welcome to the SLC Sunday Experience. We're so glad you're here. We want you to know your soul is welcome here and you are in the right place. We have Michael Rogers with us today.
All right, let's turn it up. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting a message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Is your soul welcome? Oh, yeah. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I am meant to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting a message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting a message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. I am getting a message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 Oh, yeah. My soul is welcome. Yes, it is. Your soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Yeah. My soul is welcome. I am getting a message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Reverend Louise.
Thank you, Paula. Good morning, Reverend Deborah.
We're all here, we think.
We are, and thanks for being here. So we want to greet you in the warmth, in the loving spirit, in the amazing energy of this community, Spiritual Life Center. And we know that we are never here by accident. We want you to know if you're here with us for the first time, you are not here by accident. We are all here by divine appointment. And thank you so much for keeping that appointment with us today. And there's a very important appointment that I'm going to mention now, but I'm going to know that you're all amazing conscious beings. And before you walked in the door, you silenced all of your electronic devices. So if you haven't already done so, reach in that pocket or on your wrist or in your ear or wherever that chip is implanted and just put it on silent. And we wanted to let you know that our beloved longtime congregant, Louise Walters, that Southern belle that she was, made her transition, and her memorial service, her celebration of life, will be on Saturday, June 2nd, right here at 4 p.m. And Reverend Michael Moran will be here to officiate that celebration of a divine Southern belle as the charm that was wheezy. So there, at one point, there were 4 Louises in community, and we had a good time with that.
And today I have a special prayer to share with you. I host a spiritual discussion group on Thursday mornings. And it's starting in January, we decided to take a look at the Lord's Prayer. Now, it was not my intention that we rewrite the prayer because I don't know how many hundreds of people have done that. But over the last 4 months, this group has looked at the prayer line by line and worked on it, and we came up with something that we think is beautiful. And it is my honor, my humble honor, to be able to share this prayer with you this morning. So let us pray. Oh, our beloved within, blessed be our name. Inner light shine forth. Divine intention manifest within and without. We are blessed always with awareness and abundance. We forgive ourselves and others. We do not stay in temptation. We release ourselves from fear. We return to love. We live in light, love, and glory. Amen.
Beautiful. What a wonderful class.
Oh, they were amazing. They threw themselves into this in a way that I never expected. I just thought it was a good little foundation for discussion.
So, and this is your Thursday morning group that
Thursday
starts
morning at 10 to 11:30. Anybody can come in. We're starting on the Beatitudes next.
Wonderful. And that's a drop-in program, by the way. And so every now and again, we have teachers that come into our awareness. And we've had several congregants here over the years that have so spoken highly of Reverend Dr. Stu Bittman that it took us a while to get him here. He travels extensively, and he's a sought-after speaker and teacher, and we have him here today. So I want to tell you just a few things about Stu. So prior to becoming the co-minister at Unity at South Lake Tahoe, Dr. Stu Bittman and his wife, Hillary, ran a holistic chiropractic center for 23 years. Now, for the last 12 of those years, they ran it solely on a love offering basis. And in addition to being an interfaith minister, Stu is a published author. He's an international motivational speaker. I know because it took a while to get him on our schedule. And he's a life coach and spiritual leader. So no matter the vehicle, we know that Stu's mission is and will remain to awaken the awareness of oneness between the spiritual and the physical. And his talk today, I can't wait to hear about students achieving oneness could move on to Twoness. I can't wait to get clear on that. So, and today, after second service, our choir is hosting a bake sale, and we call it a bake sale, but they're offering lunch items. I believe that they have soups and sandwiches and all kinds of wonderful things. So if you want to stay for that workshop that starts right after second service, you can run over and grab a bite to eat. The bake sale is usually in the courtyard, but because they're doing lunch items, it's going to be back in our kitchen. So if you need directions to the kitchen, just let someone in the courtyard know. So many people know where that is. So be sure to stay with us. Stu is going to offer an amazing workshop called Living from the Heart, and you won't want to miss it.
And we have here someone to share a few words about our tithe, and this is Michelle Steeb. She's the CEO at St. John's Program for Real Change.
Hi, everyone. First and foremost, just wanted to thank you for your past support, your partnership in terms of financial support, in terms of volunteers. We're really, really grateful. Has anyone not heard of St. John's? Okay, so St. John's operates the largest shelter in the region, only for women and children who've become homeless, but who are far from helpless. And we have a program that over 12 to 18 months helps them to build a life of self-sustenance, become the mothers they were meant to be, become the people they were meant to be. And Jennifer here, I'm going to let her...
Program for Real Change. I've been dealing with so many wounds and hurts in my past life, going all the way back to the death of my father when I was 11. I realized that losing him at such a young age and watching him It did something to me spiritually. It kind of numbed my soul. I never grieved, I never cried, I never really dealt with that pain. So just going throughout my life, holding on to that pain, I realized that I didn't know how to form relationships, especially with men, but even my partnerships in work, in my work life, my relationships with women, I was never able to really hold on to a relationship because eventually at one point, I knew that they would eventually walk away. What St. John's has done for me is it's given me an opportunity to heal. I found myself in an addiction due to the disappointment that life had brought me, just failed relationships. And I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to feel that pure love again from my Father. So since I've been here at St. John's, I've been able to work on me, spirit, soul, body, mind. But the spirit and the soul has been the most important connection that I've ever been able to make with myself. I grew up in the church. I went to seminary school. I did all those things in my 20s, but I never really had an opportunity to deal with those past wounds and hurts that truly led me into addiction and has formed most of my relationships in my youth and my adulthood. At St. John's, I've had an opportunity to partake in yoga and meditation classes, which it opened me up to a power greater than me that I can't even explain. I had the privilege of having a healing session. I put on some healing tunes on last Wednesday, to be exact, so I don't think it's a coincidence that I am here. But for the first time, I wrote about my pain, and it was something so significant about me waking up at 1:30 in the morning, sobbing, and have these heavy tears fall on my pillow, and was able to release that pain through the pen onto the paper. I have finally got the spiritual release that I need to love again, to be whole again, to be the mother that I've always desired to be the responsible citizen within my community. I will be forever grateful for the time and opportunity that St. John's has allowed me to have to get Jennifer together. It is almost like a vacation from life, because there's not too many places where you can be a mom and an adult and not have to worry about how you're going to eat, where you're going to sleep, how am I going to pay my bills, the clothing, water, food, how am I going to wash my clothes, things like that. St. John's Program for Real Change takes care of all of those things for us. They offer powerful therapy sessions. We have alcohol and other drug counselors that help us work through these issues. That way we don't end up relapsing and end up on the streets again. I know that poverty and homelessness is a really big issue in Sacramento, but putting people in housing really quickly and is almost like a Band-Aid, because what's happening is you're putting these people in housing, but they are on the streets and dealing with addiction for other reasons. So until we can work on those issues that we have that have led us to the addiction, which has led us to homelessness, it would be really difficult to hold on to the housing that we've received. I know because I had transitional housing before I fell back into my addiction and became homeless again. So I just want to thank all of you for allowing me to share my story and what St. John's program has done for me. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for any and every single contribution, whether it's volunteer work that you come and do. We sincerely and greatly appreciate it, and we need and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. So I mentioned earlier that we operate the largest shelter in the region. We can serve up to 270 women and children. We're full. Our wait list is about 300 women and children long every day. Why we need your support now more than ever, the County of Sacramento, which has been a longtime partner in St. John's, it's one of our funders, last fall told us that they were going to end our 15-year contract for two reasons. One is we only serve women and children. We don't serve men, and men, we love you, but these women and children need to be in an environment where they're safe and not around the distraction of men and people who are not sober. But the second reason was because we require too much. We require accountability, we require sobriety, and government thinks that's a bad thing. They call it, we're too high barrier. It's true. It's in writing, it's in the B, you can look it up. But we really need everyone's support now more than ever. That was a $60,000 a month contract that we got 6 weeks notice about canceling. So thank you so much for all you've done, all you continue to do, and thank you for your support of Jennifer. We really appreciate it.
So we call the Wednesday WOW program because we're really excited about it. And this week, we got really excited about 2 weeks from now. We forgot that there's a fifth Wednesday. We didn't forget, however, that Stan Padilla is going to be with us this next Wednesday because he's just amazing. And you actually had an experience with him while you were in seminary, right?
I did. So Stan is he is a spiritual teacher. He is he won't say this, but he's so humble. He really is the embodiment of a shaman. And so while he won't put labels on that, and he's very humble, he is a powerful teacher. He's a powerful healer. He is a musician, a poet, and an artist, an amazing artist. He, along with some fellow artists, are in the Royal Chicano Air Force artists. Is that correct? It's something like that. But they've just done a huge installation at the Golden One Center. So he's a remarkable being, and he is a very sought-after speaker. And we're going to have him on the 30th. That's this Wednesday. That's the fifth Wednesday of the month.
Wednesday. And just since we have the slides up here, the first Wednesday was Dominic de Garcia with the drumming circle. And then sometimes there are a few people who think the drumming is a little too enthusiastic. So over in the chapel, I have a spiritual exploration discussion group. So you have heads up on 2 Wednesdays now. Wow.
Yeah. And one's a certain beat and one's another beat, right? It's a slower, quieter beat. Yeah, definitely. And now to share a few words about an amazing class she's got coming up is our own prayer chaplain director, Sherry Rain.
Good morning. Why, thank you. Yeah, so prayer is an amazing way to connect with our heart and see what it is that our heart is trying to tell us. We can find clarity and peace when we are feeling lost or confused. And if you don't have a practice and would like to explore prayer in your life, or if you would like to deepen your practice, I invite you to join us next week. There are many forms of prayer, and we will be looking at 4 different types so that you can see which resonates with you. We will also be looking at the different ways that our prayers are answered, and sometimes those answers are yes, no, slow, or go. And we'll also be looking at what can get in the ways of our prayers. And if you're thinking about becoming a prayer chaplain, this is a foundation requirement for you. And if you're just wanting to explore prayer, we invite you as well. So we start next week, and I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. And that's going to be 3 Thursdays.
The Energy of Esther is coming. On June 10th, we have the amazing Esther Nicholson. She will be in-house, and she will share her voice and her life story of personal transformation. She is power, and she is infectious. And don't miss her talk and workshop.
And so how many of you attended the Summer Splash last year? Nope. There was spring fling. Spring and summers. The spring fling. Well, it was just such a fun time that we decided to revisit a fling, but we're going to call it a splash because it's in the summer. So join us for that. It's going to be at the amazing Silverado Design Center, and it's just go down South Watt Avenue almost to Fruit Ridge. It's on the right-hand side. It's a really perfect venue that hosts all kinds of fundraisers, all kinds of community events. It's a great space, and you can join us for great food, wonderful company, and you can dance into the divine with River Tribe. They are a fabulous musical group, and I remember last year at the Spring Fling really enjoying watching Reverend James get his groove on. It's a fabulous band to listen to or to dance to, whichever your choice is. So also there's going to be a little flash by Richard Burdick. He's going to be our guest, so you'll get a chance to visit with him. He's our former music director, if you don't know who he is. He's an amazing being, and he moved on now. He's the spiritual leader at one of the Atlanta Unity communities. So he's here for a short period of time, and we can't wait to see him. So those tickets are going to go on sale next week. And remember, have I stood up here and told you all that we sometimes sell out, or that we frequently sell out? And then we sell out, and then there are people that are sad because they didn't get their tickets. This is going to be one of those dates. So tickets go on sale next week, and you will want to grab those tickets soon.
In fact, All That Jazz Mystic Cafe is also sold out. That's on June 1st, but we are still open for having some volunteers to help with that. And so you can see Carol and Pam at the welcome table in the courtyard today to sign up for and to set up, be on the welcome team, and to clean up.
Definitely.
I'd like to introduce some very special people now, our ambassadors and prayer chaplains. Ambassadors wear rainbow ribbons around their necks. They are here to offer a warm welcome, answer your questions, and point you in the right direction on how you can connect with our activities and programs. Chaplains are here to hold us in confidential prayer during our human journey of joy as well as of challenge. They wear the white stoles. They will be in the sanctuary after the service and in the courtyard if you would like to share a joy or a challenge with them. And especially if you are new, see your bulletin. It has programs and services from March to April, along with our other programs and services are here to support you in living your ever-expanding life.
Yeah, and so if you are here for the first time, in a minute we're going to ask you to raise your hand. We're going to give you a couple of things. The first thing is a welcome card, and that welcome card is a ticket to get connected here. There are all kinds of ways that you can sign up for a weekly inspirational email that also lists all of our events and activities. There's also a backside to that welcome card, and there are lots of different small groups that you can join. You can also check those boxes to learn a little bit more about what we have to offer. So now's the time. We'd love for you to raise your hand if you're here for the first time and keep it up so our ushers can see you. Stu, I think we got you covered with the chalet there. And then we're also going to give you that beautiful chalet. And on that chalet is a saying, we believe we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and there are many paths to the one God. And so we want to thank you all, newcomers, for joining us today. And today, let's stand this morning and greet those newcomers and each other.
and the glory, in the light and the glory.
So we are definitely beings in the light and the love and the glory. And occasionally we forget who we are. We forget who we've come here to be. And how many of you have gone through our Q process program that we offer? Great. And how many of you are familiar with the time that we spent with Reverend Dr. Gary Simmons doing our genogram program? Right. And so that genogram program was designed to put in place an awareness of where we may be holding pain, of where when we are triggered by something that has its roots deeper in our past, it gives us an opportunity to identify what those qualities are when we feel triggered by something and we fall into that shadow quality. So here's a community. We did the beautiful genogram practice with Gary, and it uncovered our shadow of our community, where in the past we might have had hurts, we might have had some unmet needs, and those qualities show themselves when we're triggered. We also did the work around what have we come here to be? What beautiful qualities do we innately embody that we have come here to share? And so we have both of those sides we're going to share together today. And what we know and affirm is this community is a beautiful community. And this is an empowerment to remind us that give us just the awareness when we fall into the shadow. It's not who we've come here to be. It's a temporary circumstance. So join me in reciting our shadow card. So please have compassion for us when we are being not enough, distrusting, grieving, blaming, powerless, or fearful. For we have come here to be inspired, in integrity, joy-filled, compassionate, unstoppable, generous, and transformational.
And as we embody all of those beautiful qualities, we affirm that all beings know love and all beings know peace.
All beings know love. May all beings know peace. May all beings know love. May all beings know peace.
May all beings know peace, especially on this Memorial Day weekend, as we honor those who gave all for us. As we prepare to go within for meditation, we breathe deeply, settling into this moment. Turn your attention inwards to your beautiful heart space. Breathe deeply into that tender place and open to all that is. We open our hearts to the essence of Memorial Day. And while we pray that there is no need for war, war goes on. Men and women step up to keep us free, to fight injustices, to bring safety and equality to our world. Releasing any resentment, judgment, or doubt, we remember there is no place that God is not. And this moment calls for grace as we grieve the lives lost. We grieve for the bride-to-be who lost her fiancé on the battlefield. We grieve for the parents who lost their son or daughter in an ambush. We grieve for the new baby never to meet their father, or the child never to see their mother again. We grieve for the love yet to blossom and the challenges never to be met. We grieve for the innocent and the history lost. Whether we support the cause or rally against it, our soldiers step up to protect human rights, pushing back against harm. They lay it all on the line. Now I invite you to bring to mind someone you knew who gave their life. Or imagine our most recent casualties. Gabriel Conde, 22 years old, from Loveland, Colorado. Or Jonathan Dunbar, aged 36, from Austin, Texas. Both passing away this April 30th. Opening our hearts, we honor these dear souls who return to spirit. We offer comfort for those who are left behind, and we send strength to the fellow soldiers who fight on. We send courage to those who rally for freedom, and we offer love for the oppressors, for it is these hearts that can change all. So breathe into that. And in the silence, we send love where it is needed most. It is through our hearts that we will change the world. As God's love knows no bounds, our love continues to expand. And the greatest honor we can offer is to celebrate our freedom, living our lives with vigor, with hearts full of peace and compassion. When we live from our center, we feel the love that abounds, seeing everything as a miracle, and we realize that everything is holy now, and so it is.
When I was a boy, each week, Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still, but now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. From water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with the reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Face and say it's not a testament. It'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood and I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church lit out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. There used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with reverent air, 'cause everything's holy now. Holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Everything is holy
truth. Forgot my shades. I want to thank you for having me. I want to thank my men's retreat brothers for campaigning to have me here. The main campaigner isn't here. I find that interesting. He's coming. Okay, all right. And the Q process affirmation pretty much covered everything I was going to say. So are there any questions? No? Oh, okay. So thank you for that beautiful honoring of Memorial Day. That was beautiful. I hear people say Happy Memorial Day. I think they don't quite get the idea of the holiday, but isn't that typical? It's a Monday off, I guess. That's happy. So anyway, hello. Before I forget, I will explain my title, because I know there's a lot of intrigue. Students achieving oneness may move on to Twoness. This is actually a Woody Allen quote. And sometimes, when I'm asked to speak, a title comes to me, and then I have to kind of make a talk around the title. So this was easy because I think he came up with that just to be funny. And it is funny. But I find a lot of wisdom in it. Because this world shows up in Twoness, in duality, in light and dark, and good and bad, and in all those kind of dualities, yes? And my senses don't allow anything other than that to show up for me. So it's really important that we ground ourselves in oneness before we tackle this material world, which shows up as Twoness. Twoness, you may have thought was in Tunisia, and it is, but we're not talking about that one. So one of the benefits, I think, from grounding ourselves in oneness, in wholeness, before we try to tackle Twoness, is maybe we would remember the truth of that song that Michael just sang. Does anybody ever forget that everything is holy? Please raise your hand, because otherwise it's really very little to talk about. We forget the truth of our being. We forget that we are whole. So probably the person that I forget about the holiness of, this is a terrible sentence, I could tell already, but we're halfway through, so we might as well continue. The person that I have the most trouble remembering is whole is me. But if everything is holy, and I don't know if you know this, but the word holy and the word whole and the word health and the word hallowed, they all come from the same word. They're all the same thing. So everybody turn to the person next to you and say, you are holy. And say, holy cow. And now turn to that same person and say, I am holy. So I think I already know the answer to this question, but which was easier to do? It's probably a little easier to look at the other person and say, you are holy, yes, than to claim it for ourselves. But you know what? If everything is holy, that means you. That means me. And wouldn't it be a nice thing to come from an awareness of our wholeness, our holiness? I have a feeling if enough people did, then maybe on Memorial Day we'd be, out picnicking and not decorating graves. Would that be all right? No, good. I was just checking. So, wholeness is the state of the universe, whether we believe in the Bible or whether we believe scientists. Isn't this good? They're actually agreeing on this stuff now. Isn't that good? That they actually came around to something that poets and mystics and philosophers have been talking about for thousands of years. My question is, how did they know? How did they know before David Bohm came along with quantum physics and said that wholeness is an undivided or unbroken completeness or totality with nothing wanting? Who described the entire universe as like a big hologram. You know what a hologram is? This thing they make out of lasers and mirrors, and an image is produced where if you took any little piece of that image, any tiny little piece, the whole image would be present in that piece. And David Bohm, whoever the heck he is, says that's the state of the universe. So in each of us is the entire universe. We are whole because the universe is whole. And as somebody said, there is no place where God is not. It's double negative, but I'll go along. And in every place that God is, all of God is. Isn't that true? All of God is in every little point of space, even the space between our ears. Ta-dum. John Muir, before David Bohm came along, said there is not a fragment in all nature. For every relative fragment of one thing is a full harmonious unit in itself. Again, how did he know? So oneness and wholeness are difficult concepts maybe for our brain to get around, but they obviously can be felt. This can be intuited. This can be experienced. Has anybody ever experienced this? I mean, we all probably find it easier in certain things to be aware of our wholeness. And again, is that a good thing? I mean, when I am coming from a place of wholeness, I tend to come from a place of love instead of fear. I tend to come from a place of abundance instead of lack. I tend to come from a place of compassion and connection rather than separation and judgment. Anybody else? And which do you prefer? Which does your wife prefer? Let's ask her. So I want everybody to stand up for a second because we're going to demonstrate why we all have a challenge with this. Please, if you're willing and able, stand up and point to the ceiling. It's above you. Yes. Okay, and as you're pointing to the ceiling, I want you to start making clockwise circles, like you're drawing a circle up on the ceiling, clockwise. Okay, now as you continue to make clockwise circles pointing at the ceiling, I want you to start lowering your arm down a little bit, slowly, and get it to around eye level. Keep making clockwise circles. Okay, lower it even more. More. Okay, everybody look down at their clockwise circles. What direction are your circles going? Oh my God. Stu, he spiked the punch again. Does anybody want to do that again, thinking I messed you up somehow? You have to do it real quick because I only have 25 minutes. Okay, clockwise circles. Keep making them. Maybe concentrate really hard. Now don't flip it around. Okay, bring it down. What happened? Okay, here's my question. Are clockwise circles correct or counterclockwise circles correct? Who's right? What's the answer? It all depends on, I was going to say how you look at it, but that's a big word. Perspective, yes. Okay, so everybody sit down, please, before I forget to tell you to sit down. I forget my wholeness because my senses only tend to perceive one side of the coin. Is there only one side of the coin? It's too bad. We can make a lot of money flipping if there was only one side of the coin, but that's not the case, is it? So again, who's right? So I see parts, I see Twoness, and unfortunately, I can only grasp one at a time. How about you? And then the other one becomes wrong. Does that describe the human condition right there? It's all a matter of perspective. It's all perception. And when I only perceive one side of the coin, would you say I'm perceiving accurately the truth of what is? No. My mind is not full. In fact, I thought about this the other day. The best I tend to do is half. I walk around with half a mind. How about you? And it's amazing my head doesn't tilt. That used to be an insult in my neighborhood growing up. If you had half a brain, your head would tilt. Or if you had half a brain, it would be lonely. Half a mind. And isn't that interesting? We have an expression. I have half a mind, too. I have half a mind to tell you off. In fact, if I didn't have half a mind, I wouldn't feel any desire to tell you off. This is only when I have half a mind that I take things personally. It's only when I have half a mind that I get triggered. If I was coming from a full mind, a place of wholeness, tapped into something other than my little pee-wee head, which takes everything personally, not yours, but mine, then what need would I have to take things personally? What need would I have to argue about right and wrong, good or bad? So it's a beautiful thing to remember that everybody gets to have their own perceptions. Everybody gets to be wrong. Because all perception, as Gary Simmons would say, is misperception. And not miss in the way of bad or wrong, but just not the whole deal, is it? There's another side of this. There's another half a mind floating around here someplace. Wouldn't it be good to tap into that? So here's lesson or practical tool number 1. Whenever you feel called to say, I have half a mind too, wait. Don't say it, guys. Wait for the full mind to weigh in. Wait to check in with your heart. Wait to get input from, to me, the star witness, which is your heart, because it's going to be a response that's alive, that's appropriate, that's based on your values instead of the stuff our minds come up with. I have a tendency, again, to break things down. My mind. So that's how brains work. So we could not like that or wish that didn't happen, or we could realize, you know what, I'm going to have perceptions. I just don't have to be a slave to my perceptions. I don't have to automatically give my perceptions the same meaning that I always have based on like when I was 2 years old. I have a perception that when anything even remotely smacks of conflict, I go right back to my mom saying, wait till your dad comes home. And that brings up some adrenaline just saying that. Just wait till your dad comes home. And then of course, at 2 years old, I developed this incredibly effective strategy of hiding. And by the time Mom had her 3rd or 4th martini, I didn't get whooped. And here I am at age 61, going on 62, still living out that mechanism sometimes of running away, of hiding. Now, if I was coming from my wholeness, I would never have to hide from anything, right? I could take life in instead of running away, or instead of going right to a place of making it mean that there's not enough or I'm not enough. Nobody here goes there, right? The beautiful gift of knowing that everything's holy, including me, is knowing that I'm enough. I am more than enough. Everybody say that. I am more than... No, you were supposed to say you or no. Never mind. I need all the affirmation I can get. Thank you. So I usually get left out of those things that I have you guys do. Enoughness. is the fruit of wholeness. And you can quote me on that. I'm pretty sure nobody else said that. And just rightness. My spiritual icon is Goldilocks. Remember her? Did she have perceptions? Oh my God. Everything was too hot, too cold, too hard, too soft. You know the story, right? But then looking in exactly the same place, she eventually found what? Just right. What if we approached every moment expecting things to be just right? Does that mean we're going to like them all? But what does like have to do with it? Because like is just the other side of the coin from dislike, isn't it? What if it was just right? What if it was enough? I would venture to say that every stinky thought I have is based on either things are not just right. In fact, I would venture to say that things would be great if they were just other than they are. You never say that, right? And not only would they be better, but they should be. They should be different than they are. And I can hear my father saying, "Where's that written?" I don't know. But I'm triggered, so things should be different, right? Or I'm not enough. It's not enough. Too much, maybe I go to sometimes. Much better. That's sarcasm. Lack plays out in my mind. It's like the star of the show often. And it couldn't be further from the truth, could it? So, practical tip number 2, when you have a perception, and you're probably having one right now, question it. Question that. Really? Could be like a Zen Buddhist and say, not necessarily so. Where's that written? Wouldn't it be nice to not buy into your own, not so much your perceptions, but the meaning you give them and where you allow them to take you? Because we're going to have perceptions. I don't think we can escape having perceptions, but we can be free to choose where we let those perceptions take us. What if we just decided that whenever we realized we were triggered, which means, in my opinion, we're having an imbalanced perception, yes? I'm only seeing one side of the coin. Wouldn't it be nice if I immediately, without passing go, you Monopoly fans, go right to an awareness of wholeness, of enoughness, of just rightness? What if I just decided, this is just right? And if I wanted to change something, do you think I might be able to take more effective action from that place rather than it should be different? It's your fault. It's my fault. It's God's fault. It's got to be somebody's fault. I found this easy as a chiropractor. I didn't talk to people. People, I learned early on that if I asked people how they were doing, they would tell me. Yeah, so I used to tell people right off the bat when I was talking to them on the first visit, I'm not really here to deal with your problems or hear about your problems. I got my own problems. And fortunately, I'm relying on the doctor within you. It's very unity-ish chiropractic, by the way, if you didn't know it. I'm relying on the wholeness within you. I'm allowing the greatest doctor in the universe that built you and specializes in you to do whatever it needs to do when there's less interference. That's my role. So it was easy to see people as whole and healed and perfect because that's what I chose to see. And words didn't get in the way, which they often do. I'm good until you start talking. It's just the honest truth, isn't it? I mean, at the men's retreat, we start by looking into each other's eyes. We're ready to take everybody home with us. And fortunately, we do that first. We achieve oneness before we move on to twoness. And it's easier for us to honor our agreements once we start talking, when we start from that place. So that's what I'm suggesting. We can make an intention in our life and every day and in every moment to at least dip one toe in our awareness of oneness before we tackle this world out here. I have a quick story. I don't even know why I'm telling you, but I talking about being a chiropractor reminded me. And seeing people as whole, I had a guy that, even though I didn't talk to people, chose to complain to me about his shoulder twice a week for 2 months. And I would adjust him, and he'd get off the table, and he'd ask me the same question every single time. When's my shoulder going to feel better? And I'm giving him different variations on, I don't know. Sometimes I'd say, I don't have a clue. Try that. Or just shrug. How would I know? I didn't build you. I don't know the priorities for you. I'm just allowing the wisdom that created you to do whatever it needs to do. Hang in there. Something good will happen. And this would work until the next time he came in, and we'd do the same dance. So I'm starting to develop the perception that he doesn't get it. Anybody ever perceive that in other people? And the other reason I'm thinking he doesn't get it, I was big on checking and adjusting kids when they needed to be adjusted. And he used to bring his 5-year-old daughter with him every single time. And even though I bugged him every single time, he never let me check her spine. I'm not going to get into the story in too much depth. But one day I decide he's in the wrong place. I let my perception get in the way of my mission. So I go home and I prepare this speech about how he should probably go someplace where they address shoulders. We're not getting anywhere with your shoulders, obvious. And so I come in the day, and I'm ready to give my speech, and I get this message in my head: adjust them again. And it sounds like my mother. So I pay attention, and I adjust them again. And because I got this beautiful message, I expect something different. But sure enough, he gets off the table. He starts to do this, which is always what he did before he asked me that question. So I said, hey, before you ask me that question, again, may I ask you a question? And he says, sure. And I said, okay, what's better? What's changed in your life? What's happened as a result of you being here twice a week for 2 months? And he says, I don't know. My shoulder feels exactly the same as it did. I said, I get that. You've told me that every single time you've been here. And I'm not talking about your shoulder right now. I'm talking about your life. And he looks at me like some of you are looking at me, like I'm crazy. And I say, well, let me help you out. I mean, just about everybody that comes in here for any length of time tells me they notice more energy. Have you noticed more energy? No. Sleeping better? No. I try a few things. He denies anything's changed. I'm about to deliver my speech again. I get a second message. It was a big day for messages. And the message is, ask her. And I'm like, who? Did you ever get messages and not understand them? So I figure it's got to be her. There's only one her in sight. She's 5 years old. She's playing with the toys outside the adjusting room. So I call little Emma in, feeling very silly, and I say, Emma, help me out here. You've been coming in here twice a week every time your dad comes for 2 months. Have you noticed anything different about your dad? And she surprises the heck out of me. She starts to cry. And she says, finally, she catches her breath, and she says, yeah, Dr. Stu, he's not hitting me anymore. So even in the person that seems to have their wholeness the most buried, even those we don't know about, that wholeness is always looking to unfold. It's always looking for little cracks. It's always looking to restore itself. It's just the nature of God, isn't it? And I was very proud of myself in that moment for at least holding a vision of wholeness until like those last couple of days. And I needed him to remind me. Anyway, thanks to Emma. So I just want to remind you as we close here that it's worth it. It's worth starting our day in oneness. It's worth meditating. It's worth praying. It's worth all the stuff that you guys hear here. It's important. It's important because we're continually going to be bombarded by Twoness, and in order for us to hold the high watch, to show up the way we choose to show up, to be the light that we choose to be in this world, let's dip our toe in that often. We can do that in every moment. It's like Adam and Eve, they ate from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. In other words, it was all fun and games and oneness before that. That's when they started to perceive duality, and that threw them out of the garden. We have a chance of going back. We can go back in every moment. We can go back every time we realize we're triggered. And I'm sure, your prayer chaplains here can help you do that when you forget. Yes? Yeah, it's nice in the garden. Let's close our eyes for a moment. And we'll just say, precious Spirit of love, we give great thanks. We know we are holy, for you are holy. We know we are whole. We know that we are an undivided and unbroken completeness with nothing wanting. That there's nothing missing. That we are part of one seamless whole. And we intend to remember that. That everything, including ourselves, is holy. Thank you, God. And so it is. Amen. Bless you. Thank you.
Well, that was well worth the wait, wasn't it? So I took some notes. I don't take a whole lot of notes lately, but I thought, what I'd tell you a little bit about is my story. So this is the time of the service where we ask you to prepare your love offerings. And when I started coming to SLC, I would groan. I would come from a place of Twoness when I was asked to support a spiritual community. Because in the back of my mind was, and for my Catholic days, my parents do that. That's my parents that do that. And so one of the first classes I took at SLC was the Keys to the Kingdom. Has anybody taken that? It's a wonderful course. Had I known it was a prosperity course or a tithing course, I probably would have run screaming, thinking still, that's my parents' job. But what taking that course did for me was slowly but surely bring me back to the truth of my oneness. So Stu so eloquently reminded us that most of the time, I don't know about you, but I showed up here at SLC. I was religiously averse, highly religiously averse, and I was not feeling prosperous in any area of life. And through being here, I remember my oneness. So this is a time, as you're preparing your love offering today, that you know deep, deep, deep in the recesses that you are all the oneness, and that your resources, when shared from that place of fullness, help amplify fullness. They amplify fullness in our commitment to tithe 10% of all of our offerings to communities like St. John's, so that we can hear amazing stories by this beloved sister and her chance at feeling oneness. So as you're preparing those love offerings, hold them with your beloved next to you, or hold it on your heart, or as Carol is holding her ticket, because like me, she gives through her EFT, either checking or credit card, hold that and affirm with me the very truth of our prosperity. So we say, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, and all that I circulate. Thank you, God. And thank you for showing up as your oneness.
Ten down and one to go. Been down this road before. Still I'm on my way. Taking time to think it through. Still not sure what I'm gonna do. It's a brand new day. It's a brand new way. Hope for tomorrow. Trust in the Spirit. Live the life of your dreams. Let the passion come alive and feel the spark of divine deep inside. Jumping down the rabbit hole, don't know where it's gonna go. Still I'm on my way. Round and round and round it goes. Where it stops nobody knows. No one can say. It's a brand new day. Hope for tomorrow. Trust in the Spirit. Live the life of your dreams. Let the passion come alive and feel the spark of divine. Let me find what we hide deep inside God's Spirit. Let my eyes open wide and see we're all one in you. Three blind mice, watch them run. They can't see but they feel the sun, and they found their way. Life is more than meets the eye. We're all blind yet seek the light, and we'll find our way. It's a brand new day. Oh, hope for tomorrow. Trust in the Spirit. Live the life of your dreams. Let the passion come alive and feel the spark of divine. Hope for tomorrow. Trust in the Spirit. Live the life of your dreams. Let the passion come alive and feel the spark of divine grow inside. Oh yeah.
And that was an original. That was an original. And so this morning we want to bless these love offerings, and we want to know the great works of oneness that they express. So all of these funds touch the programs that you experience here on Sunday. They touch our workshops, the kinds of speakers, and all this beautiful facility has to offer all of us and all of our beautiful groups. And so we thank you for your generosity and from coming of that place of fullness as source with your offerings. Each other.